Hey, you guys, David here. Thank you for coming back to this channel that's pretty much dead at this point. I haven't really been doing anything. I've been so distracted by, work, school. Right now, I just got through a bunch of midterms, which is kind of why I'm doing this. This is just kind of my way of kind of relaxing, kicking back a little bit. It's just something that I've been kind of thinking about doing for a while, and this is going to be a what if story based in Dragon Ball. I've been kind of back into Dragon Ball for a little bit. I've been kind of reading a lot of the old manga chapters, and I've been watching the anime a little bit, and it's just something that I've kind of like had an idea about, especially since what if channels are so popular right now. Guys like Masako X, guys like Carthu's Dojo, they've been telling all these great stories, and I kind of have my own idea as to what I want to do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. So this is going to be a Dragon Ball What If. What if Frieza waited 5 years to destroy Planet Vegeta? I hope you guys enjoy. So I've been kind of mulling over what kind of story, Dragon Ball story, I wanted to tell, because there are so many great what ifs and fan fictions already out there on YouTube and just, on written websites like other fan fiction sites and stuff like that. And when I was kind of going over some rough drafts that I wanted to talk about in regards to this what if, I kind of kept coming up with the same kind of idea, which is basically like Goku, him being raised by someone who already knew what was going on. So basically like a what if Guinea went to Earth with Goku, what if Bardock, what if Raditz, what if Vegeta, Nappa, all of these kinds of different stories where Kakarot, Goku, is basically around somebody who was going to be able to teach him the, his heritage, his history, why he's where he is, etc. And it was kind of all of these different ideas that came together and formed. I was basically going for the same kind of story, but then I kind of decided to switch it up and just remove all of that extra stuff. So basically, this Dragon Ball What If is going to be what if Kakarot knew his history on Earth. So how am I going to do that? So the way that I'm going to achieve this is I'm going to go ahead and delay, or Frieza's going to delay, the destruction of Planet Vegeta. So according to the original timeline, Goku Kakarot, he's born in age 737. Thanks to Dragon Ball Super Broly and the Dragon Ball Minus manga, which are now canon, or at least some parts of it are canon, Goku is about 3 years old when he gets sent to Earth. So at 3 years old, age, which would be age 740, that's when Frieza destroys Planet Vegeta, and then that sets into motion our Dragon Ball story. So I'm going to make a change. So instead, Frieza is going to go ahead and wait 5 years to destroy Planet Vegeta. Not of his own volition. So what's going on is basically, it's age 740. Frieza's thinking about, I'm going to go ahead and basically assemble all of the Saiyans so I can destroy them all in one go, because these Saiyans are such brutes and they're going to go ahead and start to rise up. After all, they're a warrior race. They're not going to want to be under heel for very long, so I might as well just put them down. So before he can actually make this decision and put it into practice, he gets a call from his father. And King Cold is like, hey, Frieza, your brother's starting some shit. Let's go, take care of this. So Frieza tells everybody, hey, I'm going to be busy for a while. Just keep conquering planets. Keep doing what we're doing. We'll just keep it up. Don't worry about it. And he leaves for 5 years. And he doesn't come back till age 745, at which point he destroys Planet Vegeta and all that good stuff happens. Meanwhile, Kakarot, age 740, he's being released from his pod, his nursing capsule. And he gets sent off to some random planet to basically destroy it, like all low-class warriors do. So he's a low-class Saiyan. They send him off as a infiltration baby. And surprisingly enough, Kakarot survives. He manages to go ahead and land, and he survives long enough to turn into the Uzaru form. And he basically just destroys every major city, and he blows everybody up. And, he wins. He conquers the planet. At which point, more Saiyans arrive, and they're like, whoa, he succeeded. They take him back to Planet Vegeta. he managed to survive, so they go ahead and put him in, I don't know, I'm assuming that there's some kind of education that they have, because they don't all seem like idiots, you know, like they have cooks, they have chefs, they have mechanics. They're not as primitive as Frieza like made them out to be. They definitely had some kind of technological society going on. So of course that means that they have education. So Kakarot goes into whatever education system that they have, and he's working his way up through the ranks. And remember, Kakarot, Goku, he had a tremendous growth rate. Like, over the course of the story, he became so powerful in just such a short amount of time. Think about it. In the beginning of Dragon Ball, he was at what? Power level 450? And a year and like 2 months later on planet Namek, he already has a power level of like 2 million, and he has the Super Saiyan transformation. Even without the Super Saiyan transformation, he went from 450 to 2 million in a year and a half. That's a tremendous growth rate. So we know Kakarot, he's got a lot of potential. They didn't see it on Planet Vegeta. They just decided, hey, he's a low-class warrior. Just fucking put him in a low-class thing. But he's making his way up the ranks. And remember, Planet Vegeta has a gravity of 10 times Earth gravity. They have a 10G gravity, whereas we only have 1. So his growth rate would have been faster. So Goku, on Earth, went from a power level of 2 to a power level of 10 at the beginning of Dragon Ball to a power level of 450 by the end of Dragon Ball. Prior to Dragon Ball, at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. So I think it's safe to say that Kakarot, training on Planet Vegeta, learning, energy, learning how to fly, learning martial combat, basically. I think it's safe to say that we'll put him at, I don't know, what's fair enough. We'll put him at 400. 400. So, like a 7.5-year-old Kakarot is at power level 400. That's a reasonable enough growth rate. He's been training on a 10G planet, and he's basically just been doing all of that stuff. It's not a massive improvement, but it's more than he would have had on planet Earth. So at this point, this is when Frieza comes back, and he kind of picks up where he left off, and he starts seeing that the Saiyans are they're getting a little too big for their britches. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do what I'm going to do. He starts doing the whole assembly thing. All of this stuff, Saiyans start arriving from everywhere. Bardock went through that whole thing on planet Kanasa, and he has the future vision, all that good stuff, because I know a lot of people love 1990 Bardock, and they don't really like 2018 Bardock, which is weird because nothing in 2018 actually contradicted the Bardock that we had from the special. I mean, he was a little bit more of an asshole in the 1990s. He was more gruff, but you also have to remember that in the Dragon Ball minus Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, he came home and he was out of his like warrior mode, He wasn't on the battlefield. He was chilling with his wife or whatever Saiyans have. So I think he was just a little bit more relaxed. So Bardock rushes home and he's like, Gine, what's going on? Some shit's going down with Frieza, because he heard of that. Frieza's talking about the Super Saiyan and all this stuff, and he's having these visions where Frieza's blowing up the planet, their home planet and everything. And he's like, where's Kakarot at? And she's like, well, Kakarot just got back from a mission with his brother and Prince Vegeta and whatever that team was called. And he's like, he got the shit kicked out of him, basically, because it was his first real battle. That was his first stint in the actual military, not his Uzaru, his infiltration baby status notwithstanding. So that was his first real skirmish, and he kind of got the shit kicked out of him. He didn't do too well, so they sent him back to Planet Vegeta in a rejuvenation tank or whatever those were, and he's at home already chilling in the tank. And she's like, well, he's just kind of recuperating. He just got back. He's just in recovery. So they go and they pick him up, and Bardock's like, I'm gonna go get a pod, and we're going to send him off planet. At which point, this kind of goes into what happened in Dragon Ball Super Broly. The only difference being that Kakarot is actually like, oh, cool, a secret mission, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's conscious for them to explain to him, hey, yeah, some stuff is going down, and we need to get you out of here. Of course, Kakarot, he wants to fight. He's like, you're Bardock. You're like the most powerful Saiyan besides King Vegeta. Frieza can't stand against 1 billion Saiyans, we should fight back, blah, blah, blah. Bardock's like, there's really nothing we can do. Like, Frieza's super powerful. His power level's like in the millions, and we're never going to be able to catch up in time. All we can do is like hope for the best and see what works out. They end up forcing him into the pod, sending him off world, and about a month later, Frieza destroys Planet Vegeta, does that whole finger supernova power thing, and he just blows it up. And Kakarot knows what happened on planet Earth because, you know, I don't want to say he saw it because it happened like a month later. So we'll just say that Kakarot has a scouter. Of course, Bardock took out the microphone and he took out the GPS in it. So he heard like Frieza saying, "Oh no, meteor hit Planet Vegeta, blah, blah, blah." And of course, Kakarot's devastated, but there's nothing he can do. His pod is on autopilot. He can't pilot the damn thing. He wasn't that far along in his training. So he ends up crashing on Earth, ends up meeting Grandpa Gohan. And, you know, Grandpa Gohan can tell that this kid is, like, super powerful. And Kakarot's like, "You only have a power level of 80. You know, you're a fucking old man. You know, you guys can't do nothing." And, of course, Grandpa Gohan, he's a kind guy. He wants to help out this kid who's obviously going through some stuff. And he just crashed on some unknown world. So Grandpa Gohan's like, "Well, I can train you in martial arts." And Kakarot's like, "Yeah, what are martial arts going to do? That's just bullshit." And, I don't know, what's his name? Grandpa Gohan just beats the shit out of Kakarot using martial arts, you know. No powers, no energy or ki, as Grandpa Gohan would call it. He's like, "Let's just see what you got in martial arts." And, you know, Grandpa Gohan was pretty badass. We've actually seen him fight, and he was able to fight pretty evenly with a power level 100 Goku in the old Dragon Ball when, you know, during the Fortune Teller Baba saga. So we know Grandpa Gohan can hold his own. And Kakarot, he's been trained in how to fight in like energy attacks and stuff like that. But they didn't really focus too much on martial arts. So Grandpa Gohan is just kind of owning him in martial arts. And Kakarot's like, "Hey, I could use this because I'm going to get revenge against Frieza." So this Kakarot that we have on Earth, he not only is he more powerful, he is more, I don't want to say more intelligent, but he was trained like as a military kid, and he knows tactics, he knows all of this stuff, and he knows his history, the history of his people. He knows that Frieza is the big bad. And I think this is going to make a huge difference because in the old Dragon Ball, Kakarot, he was fighting to meet the next challenge, pretty much. This Kakarot's like, "I'm looking at Frieza. Frieza's the one that we got to kill. He's the one that we're training for." So he's kind of throwing himself into his training a little bit more. Now, at this point, it's age 749 already. He's been on planet Earth for like 4 years. Because remember, Frieza blew it up at 745 instead of 740 because, you know, he waited 5 years to destroy Planet Vegeta. So we have an older Kakarot who's going through this, who lived through all of that, and now he's on Earth. So he's been learning martial arts from Grandpa Gohan. They didn't really improve his power level all that much. So right now I would put him at, I don't know, we'll say 550. That seems reasonable enough. Because remember, he was at 400 on Planet Vegeta. He got the shit kicked out of him on whatever mission he was on. So he got a Zenkai boost off of that, put him at 500. And like 3-4 years of training physically, learning martial arts, they helped improve his physicality a little bit more, which puts him at about 550. And this is when he meets Bulma. Their meeting pretty much goes exactly the same. Bulma's not really paying attention. Kakarot's kind of like off in his own little world, distracted, and she almost hits him. He manages to fly out of the way, which she swerves off the dirt road into a tree, and she's like, "Holy shit, what the fuck happened?" So their meeting is a little bit different. Like, she didn't hit him with the car or anything like that. And he's just kind of like, "Why aren't you watching where you're going?" And she's like, "Why are you walking in the road?" It's kind of like a little comedic scene right there, kind of similar to how they first met, but not exactly, because there's like, you know, that little difference, because again, Kakarot could fly. So she's like, what the fuck, how did you fly, what are you doing, like, you know, how did you do that? And you know, you're carrying around like a 200-pound fish over your shoulder like nothing, and you're just a 12-year-old shrimpy kid. So what's going on? And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Saiyan, whatever. We're stronger than average and all that stuff." And she's like, "Whoa, cool, an alien. Like, how did you get here?" And he's like, "Well, you know, my parents sent me here to avoid, you know, destruction." And she's kind of like, "Oh shit, like, you know, I wasn't expecting that." She was just kind of caught up with meeting this alien. And So, they're like, okay, I'm heading this way because of the Dragon Ball. And he's like, well, that's where I live, so let's just walk together in the meanwhile. That whole thing. And, they're kind of talking back and forth because, Bulma's a little bit like, whoa, cool, an alien. Like, I wonder what knowledge this guy has, because Bulma's like a super genius, and she loves science and tech and all that stuff. So I think it's pretty in line with her personality to ask some questions. So, she's like, so is like this flying thing like an alien thing? And he's like, nah, humans can do it too. You guys just need the energy. You need to develop your energy. And she's like, hold up. You're telling me that working out can give you superpowers? And he's like, yeah. And Bulma's like, but anyway, so they're kind of doing their own thing, meeting their way. And then they go, and then Bulma sees the Dragon Ball. They have the whole discussion about the Dragon Balls. Oh, hey, we can, do all of this and all this stuff. And, and Kakarot kind of has a thought. Do you think they can resurrect the dead? Like, and she's like, well, I don't know, but, it might be worth giving it a shot. Because Grandpa Gohan is still dead in this timeline. Okay? So, what happened was Grandpa Gohan was aware of Kakarot's, origins, and he told him. He wasn't afraid to be like, oh yeah, you know what, the Saiyans, this is what we did, and then we were conscripted into the Cold Force or whatever, and then we were basically slaves to Frieza, all that good stuff. And Grandpa Gohan was like fascinated with the Saiyans, and he's like, oh, you're all like powerful warriors, and and you can multiply your power by like 10 by using the Uzaru. And of Grandpa Gohan was like, you need to always be in control of yourself. So they were training to get Kakarot's Uzaru form under control. And unfortunately, during one of the full moons that they were training in, Kakarot did not maintain enough control, and he ended up crushing Grandpa Gohan to death, same as normal. This is a little bit different because, again, Kakarot knows, and he actually blames himself a bit more significantly than in the original Dragon Ball timeline, because like, he should have known. He knew that he couldn't control the Uzaru form, and he allowed himself to be like, well, maybe Grandpa Gohan can teach me. They had a few close calls, but ultimately he was the one who killed him. He knew he should have put a stop to it, but he was kind of obsessed with this idea of being able to maintain control over the Uzaru and not hurting people, especially people that he cared about, and he failed. So Kakarot's like, I don't do the Uzaru form anymore, So, again, they go on their adventure. It's, what do you call it? Pardon me. So they go on their adventure, and, honestly, they get through it pretty damn decently. Almost no issues. Remember, in this timeline, Kakarot's power level is about 550 when he met Bulma. So, he's already stronger than everyone in Dragon Ball. Like, every single person in Dragon Ball, nobody can hold a candle to him, pretty much. He's stronger than Goku and Piccolo were at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. The only person who's stronger than him at this point by the beginning of Dragon Ball Z is Raditz, who had a power level of 1500. So, he's kind of breezing through everybody. Monster Carrot, fucking blown away. Who else? That bear with the sword, he just ripped them apart. That pterodactyl, nothing. Nobody can hold a candle to Goku. So they're going around, and they help the turtle. They get the Dragon Ball from Master Roshi, and Master Roshi's like, hey, you can come and train with me anytime you want. They go off, and they're doing pretty much everything. They meet, they meet the Ox King, and the Ox King's like, oh, well, the Dragon Ball is in there. You can take it if you can help me put out the fire. So then they meet Chi-Chi, and they go to Master Roshi. Master Roshi still does the Kamehameha wave to do that, because Kakarot's like, well, they're looking for the Bancho fan, so there was no reason for Kakarot to be like, I'm going to blow up the mountain. That was still Master Roshi's fuck up. But, and here's something that's going to be a little different also, because Chi-Chi at this point is like, oh, she's enamored with Kakarot, and she's like, oh wow, he's powerful, he can fly, he does all this stuff, and she's kind of got this huge crush on him, and she's still doing the whole, oh, do you want to get married, do you want to be betrothed, and all that. And Kakarot's kind of like, well, I'm kind I'm very flattered. I really like you too, Chi-Chi, but you know, I just want you to know that if that's something that you want to do, like, I'm a Saiyan and we love to fight and I have a goal to kill someone, you know? I can't be held back by anybody that's, you know, weak. So if you really want to be together, then you have to get stronger because, you know, if the time comes for me to fight Frieza and I lose, then I'm hoping that maybe my children or somebody in my line or something like that. That's Goku's Kakarot's mentality. Right now, his only real reason for training is to defeat Frieza, and he knows that Frieza is incredibly powerful. They don't know exactly how powerful he is, but he knows that like he's way out of his league right now. And if the day comes that he does fight him and he should die, he doesn't want everything to just end with him. He wants to be like, okay, maybe my future children could take up the mantle. The way Bardock failed, now it's on me. So it's kind of going down the line a little bit. Of course, he wants it to be him, but he's realistic enough to be like, I could fucking die. And the idea of having like an heir to challenge Frieza in his place, it's not a bad idea. You know, Kakarot's kind of looking at it a little bit more pragmatically, but he does like Chi-Chi, and he's like, well, if you want to do it, let's do it, but you got to start, you know, getting tougher. So that kind of sets something else up for down the line that I'm planning. So they go off, they meet Yamcha. Yamcha gets fucking throttled by Kakarot. He's just cannot stand up to him. So at this point, Yamcha's like, oh shit, you know, I want to learn how to fly and do the stuff that you're doing. And Kakarot's like, yeah, sure. And of course, he develops his crush on Bulma, and he gets over his fear of girls, all that stuff. Finally, they have like 7 of the Dragon Balls or whatever. I forgot how that part went. I don't know. We'll say that they have 7 Dragon Balls, and they finally meet up at Pilaf's castle, and they get captured by Pilaf like in the original timeline, and they're locked in that big vault room thing. And Kakarot's the most powerful being on the planet right now, but his power level is still only about 550. So he's strong, but he's still not quite strong enough to defeat those metal barriers, the high-tech vault that they were in. He's still not powerful enough to kind of, you know, beat it yet. So at this point, you know, Pilaf is pretty much about to summon the dragon, and he's like, I'll leave them in there. They're gonna die, they're gonna suffocate, or they'll be cooked to death because, you know, what was it, the sun was gonna like shine in there and it was gonna heat up like an oven, if I remember correctly. And so they're kind of like on the home stretch, and the Dragon Balls are about to be awakened, and they're kind of all just, oh shit, you know, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get out of this? And Kakarot notices, because he keeps track of the full moon. He's very meticulous with like, tonight's going to be the full moon. I have to make sure that, you know, I don't look up at all, that we're not traveling at night, etc., etc. He's really like obsessed with it. And he tells Bulma, hey, Bulma, I'm going to transform into the Yuzaru. Because remember, Bulma knows about the Yuzaru form. She knows that the Saiyans have this power up and all this stuff. He told her any questions that she had, he answered for her, you know? They were friends. So he told her, yeah, this is what the Saiyans can do and blah, blah, blah. And she knows that this is going to be a huge power boost at the cost of Kakarot's higher intelligence functions. He's basically just going to be a rampaging beast. So he tells her, all right, I'm going to look at the full moon. When I transform, as soon as I bust us out of here, you need to run. Just run, get away from me, because I don't want to kill you the way I killed my grandpa. And, you know, Yamcha's like, what the fuck? Oolong is like, what the fuck? Everybody who's there is like, okay, what are we preparing for exactly? And then they kind of go off into one of the corners, and she's like, okay, as soon as we get the chance, we run out of here. Like, we just bolt. And they do. Like, you know, Goku looks up, he transforms, his massive body breaks open the vault, and he's just basically stomping on the castle, destroying everything, wrecking shit. Pilaf has summoned the dragon, and they're running, and they happen to be running in that direction, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? And Kakarot's just stomping around, crushing everything, destroying everything. And he notices the big dragon, so he starts approaching the dragon, and behind Bulma and Yamcha and everybody, and Pilaf is freaking out. He's like, what the hell is going on? You know, it's a monster and all that. And all this destruction is happening, and Bulma's like running, and she sees the dragon, and she notices that nobody's made a wish yet. So remember, Bulma's super genius, so her mind is running a mile a minute. She knows that she needs to get Kakarot back to normal. But she also knows that just wishing him back to normal isn't going to do anything because the full moon is still there. And she's also intelligent enough to know, hey, I can't destroy the moon because if I destroy the moon, you know, it's going to kind of wreck shit with planet Earth. You know, the tides are going to get fucked up, you know, all this stuff. So she's kind of running, and as soon as she gets within range of the dragon, she just says, hey, dragon, I wish that the Saiyans no longer had the Uzaru transformation. Just get rid of it. And Shenron is kind of like, okay, your wish is granted. And there's a flash of light, and Kakarot's still in his monkey form. He's wrecking shit. Fucking crushes Pilaf and his gang, and everybody's just kind of dead. They're gone. They're no longer there. And then he gets engulfed in this flash of light, and he starts shrinking back down to his humanoid form, back to his original Saiyan form. So he's back to normal. They didn't cut off his tail. He's just kind of dizzy, standing there like, what the fuck just happened? And the Dragon Balls disperse, and they're kind of just there in the middle of the desert. All of them survived, except for the Pilaf gang. They're nowhere to be found. They're probably crushed to death under the rubble or crushed to death by the rampaging Uzaru Kakarot. And he's kind of like, what the fuck just happened? And then Bulma explains her wish, and then Kakarot's like, okay, so I can't transform into the Uzaru form anymore. Which kind of sucks because it was kind of an ace in the whole power-up. But at the same time, it's no real loss because, hey, guess what? You know, I'm not going to turn into a rampaging monster anymore. But as Kakarot's starting to kind of get his bearings, he feels a little bit stronger. He's kind of testing, kind of sensing his own power level, and he realizes the dragon took away his ability to transform into the Uzaru form. But remember that Shenron cannot make people weak. By removing, like, according to the manga, you can't wish. Like, I wish Frieza had a power level of 1, so you can kill him. You know, he can't affect people in that way. He can't diminish people. At least that's something that I remember from the manga. So Shenron did take away the Uzaru transformation, but he couldn't make them weaker. So instead, Kakarot received a 10 times power boost to his base power level. Instead of having to transform into the Uzaru form, he now just has a 10 times his natural base. So instead of 550 power level points, I guess they're in points, Kakarot now has a 5,500 power level. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it right here. So yeah, so that was kind of a bit, wow, this was 20 minutes. I might have to cut some of it down. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do have more planned and thought out. So if you guys really enjoyed this, then I'll go ahead and continue. There are some things that I want to get into that's going on with the Frieza Force right now. So I'll go ahead and bring that to you guys as soon as I can. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Peace. Yeah.